Have you ever enabled somebody's toxic behavior? Or have you ever been used as a pawn in a toxic scheme? Well, in The Wizard of Oz, it has the Wicked Witch, and she uses the flying monkeys to go out and attack her enemies, to complete her evil bidding. And in the same manner, narcissistic people will send out flying monkeys to target their victims with the intention to harass them, smear their name with lies, and or manipulate them, because the whole intention is to cause the target to feel gaslit into being crazy or confused, or to spread false narratives about this person and to guilt trip the victim into submission. All right. So have you ever been used in this manner as a flying monkey or abused as a target? And do you want to understand the sinister spiritual warfare behind it and how to avoid it? Well, if you do, stick around. You're listening to Overcoming Narcissism with Mental and Emotional Awareness through Christ Jesus. And it's a podcast for targeted individuals, whether that was through childhood abuse or societal torment. I'm Justina Butler, the author of the Path to Wholeness Transformation series. And the subject that we're covering today is Flying Monkeys, the Manipulative Tactic of Triangulation. Let's get into it. Yes, I am Christian, but I do believe in modern society to a certain degree. So that includes psychology. If you are struggling with narcissist abuse or even childhood abuse, and so today you're carrying around baggage or your nervous system is still dysregulated and you don't know how to give it over to the Lord where he can help you to release yourself of that bondage, I definitely encourage you to go to therapy, to go and find a Holy Spirit led ministry that will help you to let your soul be cleansed and reformed and let you confront that baggage, however it looks for you. But I want these conversations that will be given out under this specific playlist to be able to assist you in that process of wholeness as you let go of that baggage and that you're set free. Okay. So now let's get into the conversation of the manipulative tactic of triangulation. Okay. And this is where narcissistic people use flying monkeys so that they can play the victim in schemes that they set up. Okay. And when you really start to look at this behavior as we dive straight into this, you're going to recognize that this behavior is psychotic. So yes, a lot of people you encounter may not be full-blown narcissists, but they may have narcissistic traits. As you learn the terminology of it, you don't want to start calling people a narcissist, but at the end of the day, they may have traits. But in my experience, I've dealt with very overt narcissism. And when I look at it, it is psychotic. So you will hear me calling them narcotics. It's something that I just, called in my own personal time, but it's because they are narcissistic and psychotic. But let's get straight into this, okay? There are 4 different examples that I will introduce as an introduction to show you this manipulative tactic of triangulation, okay? And the whole intention of this tactic is to bring forth an erratic reaction. They want you to respond, okay? So the first we're going to say is a narcotic mother, okay? If you were raised with a narcissistic mother figure, at the end of the day, you know how they sow dysfunction and chaos in everything they do. And this also includes if you've been in a relationship and your partner had a narcissistic mother. They sow dysfunction and chaos into the entire situation until your nervous system is completely dysregulated. And so at the time that most people are done dealing with that sort of abuse, right, they will sometimes go completely no contact with a narcissistic mother. And so what narcissistic mothers do is that they will go around to other family members and they will play the victim. And at the end of the day, if those family members have access to the target, those family members will become flying monkeys and they will reach out to the target and say, oh, it's your mom. Like, you can't treat your mom that way. You only have one mom, right? And that's true. But your mom only has one you. She might have multiple children, but she only has one you. So why is she abusing you? Why is she traumatizing you? And it is a very narcissistic trait, but some narcissistic parents will abuse you and intentionally dysregulate you so that you will need them and you will always be submitted to them. So when you become the black sheep, when you say, no, I'm not dealing with it, those flying monkeys in your family or your mother's friends, they come around to try to force compliance, to try to force you back into submission as if you're a child, when most times when you go no contact with your mother, you're grown. All right, let's get to the number 2 example. All right, so next could be a narcissistic friend. Okay. And when you have a narcissistic friend, sometimes they secretly hate you. They're competing with you. They're trying to tear you down, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, triangulating you could look like them going to their family, going to their friends and telling these people that you said X, Y, and Z. Right? They said that you said something egregious, something that was false. And the whole intention is because they want these people to look at you with a side eye or be offended by you to the point that they will help this narcissistic person abuse you. And the abuse that manifest after this can be gossip, right? Peer pressure. If they went to their other friends, it could be peer pressure. It could be community slander. And at the end of the day, the whole intention is that this narcissistic person is trying to use their family and their friends, right, to come against you and assault you and abuse you. All right. Let's get to another one, right? Narcissistic intimate partners. Now, in the Bible, it doesn't mention boyfriend and girlfriends, but at the end of the day, I do recognize the world that we live in today, so I won't negate reality that most times when you experience this type of issue with an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend, that it is a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Now, yes, when you've been tricked into marrying a narcissistic person and you get a divorce, you might go through this same toxic behavior. But I say all of that to say, what that may look like is your ex, right, going to their new supply and telling the new supply that you said X, Y, and Z about them. Like they this, they're that, they're not even, right? And so now the new supply is looking at you, right, and they want to attack you, and they feel offended by something that they think you said about them. Because, of course, they're going to trust that this person that they're in a relationship wouldn't lie to them to play with their emotions. So now your ex is going to use their new supply to attack you and cause triangulation between you two, right? And the whole intention is because your narcissistic ex wants to sit back and kick up their feet, right? And have somebody else go to war with you while they get to relax, you know? And at the end of the day, their desire is to rage bait you. It's to get you mad, it's to get you to react. And also it's to see the thrill of seeing their new supply and you in competition over them. And the whole intention is that they want to harvest attention and they want to harvest external validation. And if you're wondering, how are they harvesting attention and external validation? Not only are they getting a thrill out of seeing you two fight over them, but at the end of the day, they can also go around to all of their friends and say, look at these two fighting over me. I barely even want them. Like, and look at these girls. I can't even get them off me. Right. And now they're getting attention from other people. They're getting the attention from the new supply. Right. And then they're also getting attention from you, rage baiting you. All right. Let's get to the fourth example. The fourth example could be a narcissistic governmental system. OK, and this one might be a little harder to grasp for you. But at the end of the day, imagine you are underneath a narcissistic governmental system. And at the end of the day, they can try to release rumors, right? Rumors of catastrophic events to push your reaction to be something that they want you to do. This could be rumors of inclement weather, so storms, right? Or rumors of war, right? Or even the narrative of terrorism, okay? And at the end of the day, the reaction they're looking for is mass hysteria. So they want you to react erratically so they can harvest your resources, okay? And the resources they may want from you besides fear mongering, right, is your finances, right? When they want y'all to go and clear out the shelves at the store at the end of the day, we could tell you that there's some storm coming, etc. And now you're going out and you're spending all your money, clearing out the stores, feeding the pockets of the people at the top. And on top of that, you know, they could also want to garner donations, right, if they want to do a war. And at the end of the day, it's very similar to like a narcissistic family member who, instead of coming and asking you for financial support or financial help that you probably would give them if you had, they may send their kid, right? And their kid will come around and say, oh, you know, we don't have money for food. I need money for school clothes. And you give it with ease. But the narcissists feel like they kind of tricked you out of it. They think they kind of deceived you when really you would have gave it to them anyway. But when narcissists use triangulation, it is a manipulation tactic. There's always an agenda behind it. But let's get into the challenges. According to dictionary.apa.org, triangulation is defined concerning family therapy as a situation where two family members are in conflict with each other and they attempt to draw somebody that's in the middle to each of their side, okay? Such as two parents who are in conflict and the child is caught in the middle. But the truth of the matter is when you're dealing with narcissistic people, it's not too likely that two narcissists will end up married to each other. In most cases, there's one narcissist, and then there's the original target that is their spouse. And then the child, of course, is being manipulated as a flying monkey or an additional victim. And this is something that you may see maybe in custody battles and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, narcissists do this for their own personal gain, okay? So if they cause a flying monkey to come against you, they're causing this person to be at odds with you to fight a battle for them while they can sit back and keep their hands clean. So no matter what damage this other person does to you, that they can sit back and play the victim if they've ever were to be confronted. And so at the end of the day, this also includes any false narratives, right? False narratives that are told on you, whether they're being told on you or told against you. It means that the narcissist wants something from you, okay? They want to harvest something from you every single time. If you were to consider a narcissistic friend, right? This is the type of person that will go from the admiration to hatred to obsession pipeline. I don't know if it's a real thing, but it's something that I talk about in my own personal journey of healing and growth. But they will go through this pipeline and they will try to go to war with you to try to take something from you and siphon something from you. We'll get into it. The same with a narcissistic governmental power, right? If you are underneath a narcissistic government and the government is looking at their quote unquote enemy, right? And they're looking at this enemy and that enemy has something that the government wants. Okay. They will want to go to war with that enemy. Okay. And they want to go to war with that enemy so that they can siphon whatever resource from that nation that they want. Okay. So the thing about narcissistic people, places, and things, okay, is that they will never admit their admiration for you. They'll never admit that, oh, you know, I'm impressed by that. That's beautiful. Oh, I like that about you. No, they will never do that because they're insecure. But at the end of the day, what they will do is attempt to go to war with you and siphon that thing from you. You see, if you're underneath a governmental power that is narcissistic, at the end of the day, you're the flying monkey. You're the flying monkey when you sign up for war. You're the flying monkey when you hate this other nation unwarrantedly. You're the flying monkey when you give the government donations to fund this foolishness, right? You're the flying monkey. And, you know, at the end of the day, you're being manipulated. So the governmental power that knows they're manipulating you probably will laugh at you and think you're foolish in the same way narcissists think that flying monkeys are foolish. So let's continue to go on. They will never admit that they appreciate anything about you, but all they'll attempt to do is to destroy you. And in the process of war, trying to destroy you, whether that's your reputation, your livelihood, right? Your connections. While they're in the process of trying to destroy you, they're also trying to siphon whatever they like about you. So if you consider a narcissistic friend, right, that don't like you, right, and they try to destroy you through community slander, gossip, lies. On the same token, they will try to dress like you, walk like you, talk like you, act like you, right? And a lot of times it's kind of like, it's easier for me to be her if she's not around. It's easier for me to copy him if I can get him out the picture. So I'm going to try to slander him and destroy him, right? But at the end of the day, in the process of me trying to ruin him and go to war with him, I'm also going to try to secretly embody everything about him. Right. And if everybody thinks that I hate this person, right, nobody will believe them when they say that I'm copying them. Right. So it's very much weird. It's very weird. But that's why I said it's narcissistic and it's psychotic. So at the end of the day, that's where we get the narcotic. All right, so let's get down to the 4 challenges, okay? And you really need to understand these challenges to be able to gain the awareness needed to not be tricked and fooled by them. The first one is viewing narcissistic tactics as a form of spiritual warfare, demonic abuse. I know it might not be easy at first, but the more I explain it, hopefully the easier it is for you to perceive it that way, especially once we get to the solutions. But at the end of the day, the second one is to know that triangulation is meant to lead to reactions that causes you to be able to be siphoned, your resources to be harvested. Okay. Number 3 is to know that a narcissist, whenever they're coming to you with their schemes, may be trying to recruit you as a flying monkey. Okay. You may be being manipulated. And then number 4 is to know what secondary abuse looks like by flying monkeys so that you won't be so reactionary to it if you know what it looks like in a bunch of different forms. Okay. So the first one, right? Viewing narcissistic tactics as spiritual warfare, as demonic abuse. You have to recognize that when a narcissist sees you and they decide that they want to target you, at the end of the day, it's because you have something that they want, whether it is money, right? Because money is the first thing that they value the most, right? And truth of the matter is that money isn't the most valuable thing that you can have. So let's get past that, right? It might be attention that you receive. Maybe you're influential without even trying. Maybe it's your personality or your style. It could be your intellectual property or your intelligence. At the end of the day, a narcissist is looking at you and they see you as valuable. You got something that they want. And so at the end of the day, first, we need to recognize that narcissistic people wear masks every day. And they're going to choose the mask that brings them the most money and attention every time. And so at the end of the day, when they see you, when they see there's something about you that's giving you attention, right? They're like, okay, I need that. I want that. And so at the end of the day, they start to plot. They start to plot to come around you and be connected to you. They want to get in proximity to you. And you might think that this person is admiring you, But it's not admiration. And it's not admiration that's rooted in love, right? It's admiration that's rooted in covetousness. Covetousness is a sin. I'm pretty sure it's the 10th commandment or the 9th commandment. And to covet something is, to want it, and it's not in a good way. So it's like seeing somebody getting married, right? And you say, oh, that's so pretty. Like, I can't wait till I get married, right? Normal. Narcissists will think, why does she deserve to be married? Why does she deserve that husband? Yeah, you see, I bet you I can get him to leave her. Everything that he's doing for her, he should be doing it for me, right? It's like seeing a man get a car and another man thinking like, why did he deserve that? Like, nah. And then trying to do something to ruin his car. Like, when people covet things, they don't just think I'll get it for myself as well. They almost want to take it from you and destroy it for you. And it aligns very much with jealousy and envy. That's really what sinful heart and mind is underneath coveting what somebody else has, coveting someone else's possessions. Okay. But at the end of the day, you have to recognize again that a narcissist, they want to feed off of your resources. So whatever makes you, that's what they want to feed off of. And it's because they want to appear normal in society. Narcissists are spiritually depleted. So they don't walk around with love in their heart and creativity and freedom. They're almost like the NPCs, right? Where they kind of have a certain level of programming in them. And that's just how they operate. So at the end of the day, when I think about narcissistic people and how they mask in society, and they blend into society more than most people. But at the end of the day, it reminds me of a serial killer. Because if you ever, watch a documentary about a serial killer or even watch something like Criminal Minds, right? At the end of the day, what you recognize about serial killers is that they go out of their way to pick up different masks so that they can be perceived as normal in society. And then people say, oh, he was so normal, right? And at the end of the day, it's because they want to be perceived as human when really they're mentally ill. And I say all of that to say that with narcissistic people, in order for them to be accepted in society, they have to mask. Could you imagine a narcissistic person wanting to be in a relationship with you and saying, oh, well, I really don't have any love to give you and I really don't plan to anyway, but I'm going to fake like I like you for the next 3 months. I'm going to get what I want from you and then I'm going to throw you to the side. Oh, could you imagine a narcissistic friend, right, coming up to you and saying, oh, I want to be your friend, right? Because I remember I had this one girl came to me and said, I want to be your friend. And I was young, right? So I didn't recognize that that's a red flag in itself. But at the end of the day, if they came to you and said, I want to be your friend, right? And they told you, but I really don't like you, right? I'm really not capable of really liking people. I'm jealous of people. I'm insecure. And the whole intention I have is to copy your personality, see what it is about you that makes people like you, embody it for myself. And then I'm going to try to destroy you with gossip and slander. Would you let that person be your friend? No, you would tell that lover, that friend to get away from you. And so I say all of that to say that you have to recognize that when you're dealing with narcissistic people, they are trying to build a mask that helps them to blend in with society. Because if they knew that people knew who they really were, people wouldn't want to be around them, except for other toxic people, because there's always that. But I say all of that to say narcissistic people will watch you be kind to people, and then they'll imitate your kindness, being nice. And at the end of the day, behind that mask of being nice is sinister hate. And I think it's so funny because we always talk about how you could come across a person who's real stoic, right? And that person is the most kind, loving person. But I'm going to tell you this, it's the people that want to be friends with everybody, want to be in everybody's face. You got to watch out for them. You have to watch out for them because those are the ones that want to appear nice and they have ulterior motives, honey. They stab you in the back. And so I say all of that to say narcissists, they want to sometimes wear a mask, right, to appear helpful, to appear kind. But at the end of the day, they're only going to help you if they think they could get something out of it, right? It's like you wanting to be a singer or a rapper, right? Or a dancer. And somebody's saying, oh yeah, you could come by the studio. I'll hook you up with this connection and that connection. But they really only want you to come around because they want to, right? I'm gonna give you the hookup, but they want to give you the hookup, right? They don't really want to help you at the end of the day. They want to help you if it will benefit them. And that's what it's like when you're dealing with narcissistic people, right? You may do something out of the kindness of your heart, but in the mind of the narcissistic person, they believe that you're only doing it because you want something from them. And that's why they often repay the good that you give them. They'll repay you with evil, right? And you wonder why I didn't even do anything to them. Why would they do that, right? Because one, that's all they got. But I say all of that to say, you have to recognize that people can only perceive through the level of their own understanding. And 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 4 lets us know that these people's minds are blinded by darkness, okay? So they're only going to perceive through what? Darkness. Period, point blank. So if you're helping somebody and they say, oh, she's only helping people because she wants people to think she's nice. Oh, she must want something from me, right? Some people aren't doing anything for external validation or gain. Some people just like to help people. And at the end of the day, this is why whenever I separated from narcissists in my past, I didn't regret it, because you weren't bringing anything to my life anyway. All you did was give me the ability to be able to pour love into somebody, to encourage somebody, right? To tell jokes and make somebody laugh, right? Because I love to do things like that. But you were never giving me love. You were never, right? So at the end of the day, I don't miss anything when it comes to you. Okay. Because narcissists are like, parasites, spiritual parasites. But let's get to the point. At the end of the day, they want to appear genuine, honest, right? Because they want to appear human. The thing that would make them human, their soul, their heart, their mind, they have allowed it to be darkened, right? So they're not being their authentic self, right? They want to copy somebody else and take from other people's personality, what's trending, what's popular. So they don't want to be themselves, right? So let's get to the point. When you think about narcissistic people who will rage bait you and then feed off of your reaction, or try to go to war with you and then try to plunder your resources, if you don't know how unclean spirits work, it is very much the same thing. Y'all have to understand that unclean spirits, they operate from the spirit realm. Okay, they operate from the spirit realm. We're not going to get overly spiritual with this at all. But in order for them to live this human experience, they need to possess a human vessel. Okay, so unclean spirits want to try to get inside of people. And this is why, truthfully, you can go to somebody's house, right? You could go to a hotel and you in that hotel, you like, something ain't right in here. You just uncomfortable because sometimes, y'all, unclean spirits reside in places. They will attach themselves to people, places, and things. And so at the end of the day, that's why you can't accept gifts from everybody, because some people will attach things to it. But I say all of that to say, unclean spirits need a host, like a parasite, and they need to be able to live off of you. And so, like, if you overcome the unclean spirit through deliverance, and that spirit is kicked out of you, right? So you're stronger than anybody. And not saying that demons don't have power or they're not strong. If you're living in sin, you probably can be overtaken by a lot of spirits, but there's ranks to spirits. But I say all of that to say, if you kick that one demon out, okay, at the end of the day, that demon is going to try to come back with 7 of its raggedy friends to overtake you, okay? Because, we're going to come back, but obviously I need more support to come and overtake you. And it's the same thing with a narcissist. If a narcissist tries to break you down and it's not working, they will go and get flying monkeys, other people, to try to bully you into submission. 100%. It's like, well, I wasn't raised in the hood, but at the end of the day, honey, if somebody ran up on you and got done up, right, and they lost, you take that L and you keep going, right? But there's some people who their pride just can't take it. They'll come back with a weapon, they'll come back with their friends, and they'll try to jump on you, right? Or if they're afraid to confront you to begin with, it'll be a bunch of them, they'll try to come and they'll try to jump on you. It's very much embarrassing. Because at the end of the day, they don't feel strong enough to fight you alone, but they will come back and try to bully you. And that's the thing, when it comes to unclean spirits trying to attack and jump on you, when they come back with 7 of their wicked friends, you have to recognize that if somebody is being used as a flying monkey against you, they are as wicked, if not more wicked, than the narcissist that is coming up against you. 100%. Because you can't tell me that you're coming to attack a person who did nothing to you and you're not similar in wickedness or whatever it is. If it's jealousy, right? If you're a beautiful woman and a bunch of women gang up and they insecure and they jealous of you and it's jealousy, whatever the case may be. But there is a similar spiritual state, mental state of the heart that causes these women to gang up and click up together and come against you. So number 2, you need to know that triangulation leads to a reaction that allows for resource harvesting. Okay, so at the end of the day, no matter what form this narcissist is in, that's what you really have to grasp. It don't matter what form it's in. This could be a mother, a friend, a lover, a governmental system, a boss at your job. Okay, a narcissist using triangulation to get other people to attack you, where you lead to becoming the black sheep, or you become socially outcast, or maybe it leads to a mobbing in the workplace. At the end of the day, the whole intention to, or gang stalking in the community, 100%. Like, the whole point is to cause mass hysteria, right? It's to make you react in an erratic way, to control you, right? Because if they can control your emotional reactions, they can antagonize you in certain moments to ruin those moments for you because you'll be emotionally unstable, right? And so at the end of the day, and then they want to plunder you. And the reason they do this is because they want to feed off of that. They want to use your reaction to validate their own broken ego. And so it's always going to lead to a reaction that will allow them to harvest your resources. And so every single time they attack you, right, and then they get other people to attack you, right, and then you react in an emotional way, at the end of the day, they're slowly breaking you down. 100%. And what they're plundering is your confidence, your self-esteem, right? Every single time they get you to respond, right? They're also attacking your self-control, because the more they attack your nervous system and you give them the ability to do this to you, right? It becomes a triggered response, right? Maybe now, the moment that you see this person, the moment your mama calling your phone, you like, the moment that you know, she's like, because you're really dysregulated because of this abuse. It is something that they've done over time. And so now it's a triggered trauma response. And so at the end of the day, the whole intention is to break down your self-worth and your self-esteem. And this could look like, you telling your parent that you want to go to school for XYZ, and them saying, you don't need to go to school for that. I don't know why you want to go to school for that. And now what you once was confident about, right? Now you're questioning whether you want to do it, right? And it's tacky. But I say all of that to say that it isn't even just that they're only abusing you by themselves. They're abusing you when they bring other people into the abuse. And then they're also abusing you for your reaction. The moment that you react and you're emotional, instead of them saying, oh, well, she's mad because we've been lying on her. Yeah, we've been going around lying on her to anybody that will listen, right? Instead of them being honest about that, they make it seem like, oh, look at the way she acting. See, I told you she was crazy. I told you everything I said about her was true. And that's not even the case. People know, narcissistic people know what they're doing. And that's why it's very hard to look at them and sympathize with them, because it's like, you know what you're doing. It's intentional. It's traumatizing and tacky, but it's intentional. And so at the end of the day, when they're doing this, they will abuse you for your reaction. Now they're making it seem like, oh, look at the way you're acting, as if you wouldn't want to defend yourself or pop off, right? And so at the end of the day, if you react, they abuse you. But then on the other hand, if you were to call them out, the flying monkeys out, and call everybody out, like, I know what y'all doing, now they're going to use the tactic that is called DARVO. It's a manipulation tactic, and it's deny, attack, reverse, victim, offender. And at the end of the first, they're going to deny it. Gaslight. What you think is happening isn't actually what's happening. Right? And then they're going to attack it in reverse. And so at the end of the day, they're going to make it seem like you're attacking me. I didn't do anything to you. I'm going to reverse it. Blame shift. That's another tactic for narcissism. I'm a blame shifting on you. And at the end of the day, you're hurting me. Then they're going to play the victim. I'm the victim here. Why does she always treat me like this? Oh, I was only telling her out of care. I was only doing it because I cared about her. Lies. All lies. You were doing it because you were being manipulative. And the whole intention is to teach you to be silenced 100%. So that whenever your nervous system starts to pick up on the schemes of these wicked people, that instead of you acknowledging the reality of your experiences with these people, that instead you just shut down, right? And you take the abuse, instead of it being the external abuse from these people, you start to abuse yourself internally. You start to deny your own experiences. And in volume 3, it actually addresses how external abuse advances to internal abuse, because prolonged trauma, that is what happens. It's hard. But at the end of the day, when they start to play the victim and they start to gaslight you, right? They done set a fire in your mental health, set a fire in your nervous system, and threw gasoline on it. At the end of the day, now they're acting like, well, I don't know why you're on fire. I don't know why you that mad. I mean, we was joking, but there's no reason for you to be that mad, because at the end of the day, the whole intention is to gaslight you and cause all types of reactions. But at the end of the day, no matter what narcissistic figure you're dealing with, I'm going to tell you that the whole intention is to trigger a fear response in you, right? Send you into fight or flight, right? Make sure you're dysregulated, because you're easier to control that way. You're very much easier to control. And the thing about it is that when you don't trust your own nervous system, you won't speak up. Now, it's been going viral a little bit where people are talking about pseudo hostility over on TikTok. And I appreciate them talking about it 100%. Now, pseudo hostility is talking about like a chaotic family dynamic, though. They're talking about when you're raising a chaotic family dynamic that lacks intimacy, right? But I don't want anybody to believe that this is only something that happens in your family, because what I've been seeing is that a lot of people have been talking about it solely like it's something that happens in the family alone. When I'm gonna tell you this, when you look past the dynamic in the person and you start to look at the behavior, you can recognize it happens everywhere. So at the end of the day, it looks like an abusive family that you should be able to have love with your family, right? There should be support, there should be real intimacy. But when none of that is present, and the family is stuck in their abusive ways, they stuck in their traumatic ways, right? And you try to call it out, but nobody wants to honor that. They want to break you down into compliance. Pseudo hostility. And so instead of anybody acknowledging that we don't treat each other with love, why are we doing this evil, stabbing each other in the back, pitting each other against each other, right? Why are we doing this? You're going to be painted as the problem. Your mom may triangulate you with your sibling, and here she go being emotional again. Everything is not that serious. Consider it with your female friends or your male friends. I've dealt with this as well, where the same girl who came to me wanted to be my friend. Honey, she wanted to be my bestie. And at the end of the day, When you consider somebody your best friend, right, that title breeds forth, right, some sort of intimacy, right, trust, right, honesty. But honey, I couldn't trust the girl for real. I couldn't trust her for real. And so it was good because at the end of the day, you know, when you're in a relationship or a friendship with anybody, you expect that you should be able to open up and tell your truth, right? All those things, right? Reveal your heart to people, right? And count on me to fix, right? You expect to be able to count on them. And when they weak, you're strong. And when you're strong, and you're like, right? But at the end of the day, if you're in a friendship where y'all secretly compete, and I don't want to say y'all, if you're in a friendship and somebody is secretly competing with you and taking little digs and getting mad when you get attention that you're not even checking for, but at the end of the day, they're getting mad that you're getting attention, etc. And you want to be, you know, open up and talk, but you're recognizing something's not right here. Right? Those are the same type of friends that when you stop being friends with them, next thing you know, they slandering you and cursing you from high heaven. But at the end of the day, the good thing is that if you never told them any of your business, like me, they're going to have to go out there and make up lies, okay? And then they're going to have to find a way to connect it. Good for you. Good for you. But you can't, listen, just because a relationship has a title doesn't mean that it's a genuine connection or there's any intimacy, right? And if you try to go in that friend group and expose it, they might be saying, oh, it ain't that deep, girl. You always taking everything so seriously. Like, we're just joking. Okay. But at the end of the day, the same thing with a romantic partner. If you're in a relationship with somebody not married and you're using, you know, sexual activities to cover up the lack of intimacy, whenever you go to him and you say, I don't know, something's missing. I just feel like you don't prioritize me. I feel like you da-da-da. That same man could turn around and gaslight you and triangulate people against you. His own family members looking at you like, she's so needy. She's so insecure. No, there is something, intimacy, honesty, transparency, trust in the relationship that he's not giving to her. Or she's not giving to him, because it ain't always a man. Sometimes women get into relationships and they're equally traumatized and they don't want to let somebody in. So at the end of the day, it is not cookie cutter. But at the end of the day, you know, I can only talk from my own testimony. So I do apologize if it seems like I'm leaning more towards women, because I'm not at all. But I say all of that to say, whenever you want to try to confront somebody for something that's missing, they will triangulate you. He will tell his family that you needy and insecure, and they'll believe him. Instead of saying, what are you doing in that relationship? Do you communicate? Are you lying to her, right? When you go to the other friends and say, y'all, why are we competing with each other? Like, we're supposed to be, girl, it ain't that deep, but it is. And now the other friends are triangulating and they feeling some type of way about you, right? And the same with your mom using your own siblings and sibling rivalry and the golden child versus the black sheep and all of that. Where now they are triangulating you, abusing you. And of course you're going to react because there's all of this subliminal hostility. But whenever you acknowledge it or confront it, now they're using your reaction. They're blaming you and saying that you're emotional and you're thinking too much, right? And all of it is to break you down, right? When somebody siphons from you, it isn't even just to pull you to copy you. Sometimes siphoning you is to deplete you of your ability to be yourself. So if a part of who you are is how you perceive, because it is, how you feel, your love, right? But every time you're dealing with a narcissistic person, over time, they are plundering you. Not just stealing from you, but breaking down your love, breaking down your self-esteem, breaking down your mind. They are plundering you more than beyond just copying you, right? Sometimes when you think of the tactic of enemies, unclean spirits, the tactic is to steal, kill, and destroy. So yeah, you have the ones who want to steal your style, right? Copy your style, but you have the other ones who want to destroy. And then the most extreme one is, but at the end of the day, let's get to the next point. Number 3, and that is the narcissist could be trying to create you to be a flying monkey. So let alone being abused by a narcissist, you should not want to be made into a flying monkey, because at the end of the day, you're being deceived. You're being deceived to go out and fight their battle. You're being deceived to carry unnecessary weight, and you shouldn't want that for yourself. At the end of the day, really think about it. Healthy people rarely are going to, no. Healthy people will not bring to you a person that you do not know and then encourage you to attack, slander, and assault this person. Only mentally ill people will do that. People who are sick. And so if somebody is bringing in somebody that you do not know, or that maybe you've seen in passing, but you don't know anything about this person, and they're trying to get you to tarnish this person's reputation, trying to get you to look at that person with the side eye, trying to scheme. At the end of the day, like, you have to understand that it's a mess. You know, when somebody is still in high school, right? When you're in high school and you're doing this stuff, right? Sure, maybe it's excusable when you're in high school. But at the end of the day, you mean to tell me that you're past high school, right? Y'all are in your 30s, and every single morning you calling up somebody and you're talking about the same person that you've been talking about for the last decade? You talking about the same girl you didn't like back in high school? Are y'all okay? Are you cool? Because at the end of the day, be for real. It is toxic and it's immature and it's deceitful. And what sucks about it is that when you think about the inner state of a narcissist who will pull you in to be a flying monkey, that person is immature, toxic, and deceitful. And now they're pulling you in to do the exact same thing. And what sucks is that, yeah, when somebody is young, right, it makes sense for them to do this. But as a parent, as a grown adult, it doesn't make any sense. And that's what sucks for the youth, is because as a parent, you should teach your children to be mature, right? To not be deceitful, but to be direct and honest, period. Not to be toxic, but to have self-control. But at the end of the day, most likely the children who are expressing this type of behavior, they're being raised by parents who have arrested development. So whether those parents are also miserable and bitter, right, and toxic and immature, guess what? That child is probably being abused at the house. That's one thing. But after a certain age, you can't say, well, I treat people bad because my parents treated me bad. That doesn't work. That doesn't work at all, right? So I say all of that to say that a lot of parents lack maturity and they lack wisdom. A lot of people get old and they don't get any smarter. They don't get any wiser. And it's like, how are you getting older and you're bringing nothing? And so at the end of the day, you want me to respect you, but you're not a person worth respecting. Now, I will always respect you as a person, right? But I will not put you on a pedestal the way you want to be because of your age, right? I'm gonna treat you the age you act. Okay. So at the end of the day, I say all of that to say a lot of people, they pay attention to generational wealth, like passing down money to their children. But a lot of y'all need to recognize the wealth that is wisdom, knowledge, right? Morality, intelligence, right? To pass this stuff down to your children, that is wealthy. That is wealthy. What is the point of leaving your children money if they're going to end up being a drug addict? If they're going to end up being mentally ill? If they're going to waste it like the prodigal son on wild living? Okay, what's the point? And so at the end of the day, we have to recognize that when you are dealing with narcissistic people, you can sympathize with them because most times they were abused at home. Like they were abused, and I get it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't negate them bringing that toxicity to school and trying to bully people. It doesn't negate anything that they do. And another thing about narcissistic people, and why you shouldn't want to be a flying monkey and follow after them, is because a lot of narcissistic people, they pick up their personality from TV shows, movies, and things of that nature. And so they truly believe in like the Disney, right? They truly believe in like, I was the head cheerleader and my boyfriend was a jock, right? At the end of the day, they truly believe in these toxic social hierarchies and they learned it from TV and they believe that this stuff is reality. And so they come out into the world and they try to force these social hierarchies and all of this deception from TV in real life. And now you're sitting here looking goofy, following this narcissist in a scheme they set up so that they can sit back and watch you become the villain, even though they really are. Okay. Number 4 is know what secondary abuse looks like in flying monkeys. Okay. So that you're not giving them the reaction so they don't harvest your resources. Okay. So at the end of the day, again, flying monkeys and triangulation is to recruit others to further their acts of abuse against you. And so again, the flying monkey can be family, friends, anybody, associates, coworkers, classmates, neighbors, church members, right? It's going to be any person that's used to further the abuse against you. And again, it's a bullying tactic. And it's a bullying tactic to intimidate somebody that they're probably jealous of. And you may think, well, no, they're not jealous of you. Maybe they just don't like you. Maybe they just hate you. Okay, maybe. But do you know how easy it is to ignore somebody that you hate? How easy it is to act like they don't exist? I know it is for me. So at the end of the day, you could just ignore them. You could just ignore them. And so when you have to think of these following types of abuse I'm about to mention, if they really just hated you, they could ignore you and treat you like you don't exist, right? At the end of the day, this could happen, of course, in family rejection. So it's familial abuse. It can happen in workplace mobbing. So it's rejection and abuse in the workplace. It can happen in community slander. And this can be in any type of community. It could be in a church hurt. Okay, it can be in a sports team where maybe the coach is getting the other teammates to target you if you're doing something that he doesn't like or she doesn't like. It could be in your friendship dynamics, right? Where, maybe there's multiple friends. They care more about an aesthetic than actual friendship. And so at the point you decide, I don't really care to gossip. I'm not interested. It's actually boring. Like, can we do something else? Now, all of a sudden, when you're no longer gossiping with them, honey, you the topic of the gossip. Okay. It could be, in a class association, such as, like an extracurricular activity. And there's just chaos and dissension within the group dynamic. And at the end of the day, whenever you are targeted by narcissists and flying monkeys, this secondary abuse is a tactic to dim your light, to humble you, right? And to devalue you, to lower your value. And so the narcissists and the flying monkeys, they're going to try to join together collectively and they're going to try to target you and tear you down. And what you really have to recognize about narcissistic people is that they're shallow. They're very shallow. They're very insecure, right? They don't have much going on in there. That's why they mask, right? So at the end of the day, if you were to let a narcissist talk about themselves, they will talk about themselves nonstop. Okay. And as long as that is garnering them attention, they will do it and they will stick to it. But at the moment that them talking about themselves is no longer garnering them the attention that they desire, this is when they will look out for inspiration, right? Because now I want attention. If I'm not getting this attention, I'm going to have to find somebody who is getting attention. And then I'm going to copy what they're doing, because whatever they're doing must be attention grabbing. And so that's when they start trying to copy you, right? But at the end of the day, and listen, if it started working for them, they will go full fledged. I always talk about this. Well, not really. I talked about it one other time on YouTube. And I was talking about how I used to have this girl that I was associates with because we weren't friends. But she would call me every morning and say, what are you wearing? Right. And then she would want to dress like me every day. And it wasn't like I was dressed to the nine. Like I wasn't. But at the end of the day, I'm 100% sure this is one of those situations where she copied me one time. She got attention and it worked for her. And then she got obsessed with it, where she would call me every morning, 5:45 in the morning, birds chirping. What are you wearing? Because she just wanted to get attention. And then I'm pretty sure that she went around telling people that I was copying her. Unhinged. But I say all of that to say, when it works, they will copy you. And they will copy you over and over to get attention. When it stops working, but it still works for you because it's authentic to you, they will hate you for that. Because you're not prettier than me. You're not better than me. You don't have more money than me. How is it working for you, but it's not working for me? But it's working for your target because it's authentic to your target. So it doesn't really matter. It's working for them because it's authentic for them. And so they hate that for you. They hate that for you, and they'll start to hate you. And they'll start to find little things and try to tear you down because it's not working for them. And this is when, in their hatred, they'll start talking about you. I don't even really like her. She's not really even my friend. Like, I don't even want to be a friend. And some people might be like, what? Right? And they get attention from that. People paying them attention again. Because whatever they're doing, they want attention. And so now they got attention before, they got attention when they copied you, and now they're getting attention when they talk about you. And then they'll talk about you and talk about you and talk about you. And if they can get attention every time they do it, this is where they truly become obsessive. I mean, to the point that you can block these people and not speak to them for years. And they're still checking for you. To the point that if you get on social media and you start clearing out your following list, you blocking people, whatever. Because I'm a person that if I'm about to unfollow you, I'm going to block you and then unblock you. So it's separate time. I'm never going to unfollow you and keep you as a follower. So at the end of the day, listen, you start blocking people, honey, they'll recognize you blocking people. They'll recognize that you're blocking people. They will search you up every single day. They will screenshot your pictures and send them in group chats. And you are the subject of conversation because now they have hit a point of being obsessed. And when people lose the object of their obsession, it ain't never pretty. But behind all of that hate, if you really hated the person, you could ignore them and act like they don't exist. Be for real. And so you have to really recognize that narcissists are deeply insecure. And this is why there's a term called a narcissistic injury, right? Because if you go to a narcissist and you tell them the truth and you say, I don't know what you got going on, but this friendship ain't that important to me. You go on about your day. I don't care, right? A narcissist will be very fragile, and that injury will cause them to continue in trying to target you and bring you down. And at the end of the day, in the tactic to devalue you, right? In the tactic to send people against you, right? To third-party abuse, to bring you down and break you down. At the end of the day, when you think about a narcissist attacking you and then getting a small little bit of attention and validation, it is very much associated with a demonic sin cycle. And a demonic sin cycle was introduced in volume 1. But at the end of the day, it starts with a broken person, right? A person who's broken. Could be misery, whatever, right? Depression, sorrow. But at the end of the day, the person who is broken, they partake in sin, right? Whether it's drinking, smoking, touching yourself, whatever. And it brings them temporary satisfaction, right? They feeling good about themselves, right? They feeling real good. But at the end of the day, bloop, fall right back down. Guilt and shame, whatever it is, reality. And now they right back to being miserable again. That's how it is with narcissistic people. Narcissistic people will be bitter, miserable, etc. And at the end of the day, they will tear you down, gossip about you, lie on you, right? And it gets them attention. And for a second, they got a little high. They got a little buzz. They feeling good about themselves. But reality comes back around and they're still miserable, right? They're still miserable. And so that's why the next day they wake up, they do the same thing against you. And they're doing the same thing again. Because at the end of the day, it is literally trying to fix a misery that's internal. And they're using it almost like a sin. They're using you like a drug, right? And they're really trying to fix their broken self and build their confidence off of trying to tear you down. It's very unhinged. It's very unhinged. And when you see this type of abuse in any of those communities, if we look at one more type of, what do you call it, secondhand gang stalking, like secondhand abuse. Gang stalking is more of a societal abuse. And this type of abuse will use all three of the categories before. So they'll use your own family against you, honey. They will use workplace mobbing against you. They will use community slander. It could be even in a church at the end of the day, because it's societal abuse. It could even be a lover, right? Where they send in a honey trap, a person that they know is your type, and they're going to send this person in, and this person's going to be used to try to destroy you, right? 100%. But at the end of the day, in the same manner, it's meant to devalue you and humble you, and then also to rage bait you. At the end of the day. But for the most part, with people who are gang stalking you, if it really is, how do you organize mobbing, right? Organized targeting. They're looking for financial gain, right? If they're doing it at the job, they want a promotion. They want something, right? They're not just doing it for no reason. But when it comes to some of these closer, intimate relationships, these people actually know your kind heart, right? Your vibrant spirit, right? They're close to you in a way that, they know who you really are. So it's really sad that these people will target you more, but they do. And sometimes they do it. They gain nothing from it. Like they gain nothing, but to maybe try to copy you, right? But they don't gain anything or attention, right? But I say all of that to say, when you look at this secondary abuse from flying monkeys, this occurs with the smear campaigns, the mockery, the persecution, and all of it is to put a bad reputation on you. Period. What is biblically known as a reproach. So if you read the Bible and you see that a reproach was upon the people, it's a bad reputation. It's a bad name, right? It's just, or just a bad state, right? At the end of the day, when they break you down with this type of abuse, honey, it's meant to put you in a depressive episode, to make you, right? It's meant to make how you are perceived to be less than. And so at the end of the day, you have to recognize, when you're thinking about these people, like, why would you actually care, right, about the flying monkeys or the narcissists? But you have to think about the mental state of these people, right? Because one of the things they love to do is call you crazy. So at the end of the day, truthfully, if you crazy, scratching the walls, like if you crazy, you don't have to be rage baited into crazy behavior. You would just be doing that on your own, right? If you were a menace to society, so now everybody in the community is watching you because you're a menace, you would just be a menace to society. You wouldn't have to go around and make a narrative about a person and do all of this stuff. At the end of the day, it's just manipulation. So at the end of the day, you have to really recognize, if a person who is watching your every move, taking photos of you, or taking your photos that you post on social media and then opening up a group chat and screenshotting everything you post and talking about everything you're doing and look at this and look at that, you tell me that person is mentally sane. Okay, if you hate this person, you can't stand them, but you watch everything they do and they block you, and so now you got to make another page and go back in there, and you're the sane one. I don't think so. And so I say all of that to say, you can't be moved by somebody who is doing this type of abuse against you. But at the end of the day, this abuse is all coming about because it's an intentional assault of manipulation and destruction. And so you have to know what this abuse looks like whenever it manifests in any different category, period. So now we're at the solutions, and I know that it's a lot of conversation that was happening, okay? But I really want to get as much information and examples in it so that you're able to look at it outside of abusive people and see it on a deeper level, okay? So at the end of the day, I want you to be able to pair this information with your healing journey so that you really can overcome narcissism with mental and emotional awareness, 100%. But let's get into the 3 solutions that I want to provide. And even if they're not that hard to perceive at first, I'm 100% sure that over time, it will be easier for you to do this, okay? So the first one is to stop conceptualizing the behavior as human, period. Number 2 is to separate the person and the action, okay? The person and the action, and look at it for the agenda and the behavior. That's why I keep on talking about behavior. Look at the agenda and behavior. And then the third thing is to know whether, no matter what, okay, whether you are a victim or a target, that the narcissist thinks that you're a fool, 100%. So let's get into the first one. And the first one is to stop conceptualizing this behavior as human. Okay. At the end of the day, I need you to view this on a spiritual level, even if you're not Christian. Okay. And even if you're not Christian, but you're into paranormal activity, follow along. Okay. Volume 1, Come From Among Them. It actually introduces spiritual sickness. Okay. And at the end of the day, it is based off of, and I'll put it on the screen, Isaiah chapter 1, verse 5. And at the end of the day, in the verse, Isaiah is addressing the disobedient children of Israel, and they were living in sin. And so he was letting them know that according to the Lord, what the Lord is saying in this time, that the whole head is sick and the whole heart is faint. Okay, the whole head is sick, the whole heart is faint. And you have to recognize that at the point that unclean spirits start to permeate your mind or permeate your heart, so if they get into your heart with unforgiveness, bitterness, rage, jealousy, right? If they get into your mind with depression or lunacy or obsession, right? OCD, over compulsive obsession, if they get into your mind in that way, the heart becomes faint. The mind becomes sick, right? If you think of a spiritually sick mind, that is where we get mental illness. It's mentally sick. The whole head is sick. There is nothing that is new under the sun, just like Solomon told us in Ecclesiastes. At the end of the day, it is in the Bible. So at the end of the day, what we call mental illness is not new. People's minds have been sick since the beginning of time. And I say all of that to say, when you're dealing with narcissistic people, sometimes you want them to love you. You want them to support you. You want them to encourage you. But people can't pour into your cup what they don't have. And so if somebody's heart is faint, if they don't have a lot of love, the Bible tells us that whatever is pure or whatever is holy, right? It gives all of these beautiful things. And it says, think of those things, right? But you're not going to be able to do that if your mind is sick. If you think of the fruit of the Spirit, right? Love, peace, joy, gentleness, kindness, self-control, that's a strong heart to be able to live your life in a wicked world from a state of love, peace, joy. But if your heart is faint, if the heart is weak, it's full of anger and bitterness and stones, at the end of the day, they don't have that love to give you. They don't. And so if you look at some of your parents that didn't give you love and you look at it as their heart was faint, their mind was sick. At the end of the day, there were certain things they couldn't give me, right? So why keep on disappointing myself, holding them to a standard they couldn't achieve? So let's move on, okay? At the point that we talk about mental illness or we introduce mental illness, we have to recognize that narcissists are mentally sick. People who operate like this are sick because their mind has been permeated and they're sick. And at the end of the day, when they want to transfer that sickness to you, right? So if somebody's insecure, right? You go out with your friend, narcissistic friend. So I don't even know if it's a friend, but you go out with this girl and, she's insecure. And you done up, right? Nails done, hair done, everything did, right? You fancy. And at the end of the day, now this girl is feeling insecure, right? She see men looking at you and it's making her more insecure. So instead of her dealing with her insecurity, right? Whatever that looks like, it does not mean she has to get her hair done or her nails done. No, not at all. It's an internal thing. It's never what you do externally. External aesthetics will never fix an internal corruption. It won't. And so at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with the way you look. But maybe this girl now all of a sudden is like, oh, I can't stand when people be wearing makeup. Oh, girls who got to wear makeup. Because now she wants you to be insecure. She wants to inflict the insecurity that she's feeling. She want to inflict it to you. And so at the end of the day, if you let her and you're like, oh, well, maybe at the end of the day, now you are receiving that demonic infliction. Volume 1 talks about demonic inflictions. And it also talks about your burden cross. The Lord told us that if you want to follow him, to pick up your cross and follow him. And whatever is on your cross, which is all addressed in there, I don't want to get off subject, but you're meant to be able to carry it. When somebody is with you and they're trying to force you to carry their opinion of you, their slander of you, or their own insecurities, they're trying to make your cross heavier than it has to be because you're not meant to carry that chain. And it's the same thing when they're trying to make you into a fly monkey. They're trying to add chains on your cross. They're trying to make you carry hate for this person that you don't even know. And if you come into agreement with it, now you are making your cross heavier. Your heart is getting faint. Your heart is heavier and it's getting weak. It's too hard to carry all that hate. It was never meant for you to carry anyway. But I say all of that to say you have to really recognize that a lot of people will try to transfer their sickness to you through demonic inflictions, okay? And another example could be a narcissistic parent who is carrying a wound of rejection. So if you have a mother, right, and she rejects herself, if she has her little beautiful little daughter, her little beautiful little mini-me, right, where she should see beauty and hope for the future, right, she might look at this little girl and see competition. She might look at her and hate her features, right? And at the end of the day, it's because she's rejecting herself. And so now she's tearing down her daughter's self-esteem, right? She's mislabeling her daughter's attributes because she's just jealous of her. And at the end of the day, let's look at it this way. If the mother was narcissistic and she had a rejection wound towards her son, right? Maybe she doesn't reject her son from her own rejection, but the man that she had a kid with, he left her, abandoned her, left her by herself to raise his baby. And so now every time she look at her son, she see that man. And so now she's looking at her son and she's rejecting her son because she feel like her son reminds her of that man. And now you just like your daddy. You ain't gonna be nothing like your daddy this, your daddy that. And now the son, he grows up and he has an internal rejection against his father. But also he has a rejection of himself. All of his flaws, all of the things about him, he rejects it because his mother taught him to do that, right? So at the end of the day, you have to recognize when somebody is carrying sickness in their soul, they will try to pass it to you through demonic infliction, and it's using that tongue. The Bible tells us life and death is in the power of the tongue, and those who eat will eat of their fruit, right? Those who, I'll put it on the screen. But at the end of the day, you have to recognize that when you speak evil out of your mouth and you speak it on somebody else, you're going to eat that fruit. You're going to eat that fruit. And so at the end of the day, that's why when somebody is trying to curse your name and talk bad about you, it has nothing to do with, you being, it has nothing to do with you having to speak negatively back on them. It really doesn't, because at the end of the day, you don't. But you could just speak life, right? Because you're not going to always reap or receive what somebody else speak on you unless you're in sin, right? And there's some type of legal right. But at the end of the day, you could just speak life. And so that what you receive back, despite all of that, the evil that they're speaking to you, you'll receive life. Okay. So you have to recognize when you're watching somebody and they're spiritually sick and their heart is faint, their mind is sick. At the end of the day, the evil that they're doing towards you it should never be perceived as human. You should never receive it as normal. At the end of the day, you should never look at this behavior and try to compare it to human behavior, but you need to learn to perceive it as what it is. It is evil. It's evil behavior. And at the end of the day, it's because the minds of the people have been permeated. And now in the state of the soul, the mind is sick, the heart is faint. Right. Number 2, you have to learn to separate the person and the action versus the agenda and the behavior. 100%. Volume 4 introduces the conversation between judgment in the flesh, right, versus discernment in the spirit. 100%. So what you have to recognize is that if you're constantly looking at the person and the action that they're taking against you, one, you're looking at them in the flesh, literally in the flesh, their physical person, and you're looking at their actions that they're taking in the flesh. And so you're looking at them in the flesh anyway. You're not perceiving by the spirit. And so 9 times out of 10, whatever conclusions you come to towards them is going to be in judgment. You're going to be looking at them sideways like, is you okay? You cool? Right? You're not going to actually look underneath the surface. But what you need to learn to do is to start looking at the behavior and the agenda that is at play. Because if you start to look under the surface, demonic agendas is introduced in volume 3 and then also delved into deeper in volume 4. But at the end of the day, if you start to look at the agenda that is at play and the behavior there, you'll start learning to perceive by discernment. And the whole intention is you can ask the Lord to give you discernment. Now, it may come by, you're going through a couple of storms or something, right? The Lord may start to let you see what's going on with the people around you, and you might not be ready for it. But at the end of the day, it will bring forth discernment, because the last thing that you want to do is start to look at people in the flesh and judge them, right? Because that brings forth guilt on you. Instead, you want to look underneath the surface and practice strengthening your discernment. Because if you consider, at least in the body of Christ, we're called to forgive people. And so when you're forgiving people and, what the Lord is telling you to forgive them, if you're looking at them in the flesh, you probably won't forgive them the way you need to. Because if you're looking at the person and the action, right, every time they do something, you like, and then you forgive them, right? And then they come and they do something again and you like, and then you forgive them, right? And then they do something again and you're like, are you okay? Because at the end of the day, you're looking at them in the flesh and you're thinking, are you okay? But if you learn to truly forgive them at the root of the situation, like, okay, so the demonic agenda here is that you are literally being used to try to break my soul, break my will. You're being used to try to gaslight me into thinking that I'm crazy. You're being used to try to ruin my reputation, probably to make me too afraid to do what God is calling me to do, right? You're trying to be used to hold me to the past so that I can't walk forth into the future, right? You're trying to hold me back, delay, sabotage, right? If you start to look at it as what they're really trying to do, the behavior will just be evidence of that agenda that they're working against you. If you forgive them for the agenda, if you forgive them that this person is being used by the enemy against my progress, they keep on trying to hold me back. Now, when they do it, it's more so like they're still doing that. And you'll probably start to feel bad for them. Like, you're still stuck in that. It's been 10 years and you're still doing that. But at the end of the day, you'll probably start to feel bad for them. 100%. Instead of taking it personally, you have to recognize that when you look at the person and the action and you're sitting there thinking like, how could my own mother, how could my friend, right? You said you're my friend. How you gonna, if you're looking at it by the person in the action, honey, you will most likely have the response of reaction, an offense. You're going to be offended. How could you? And you're going to give them reactions that are not healthy. But if you start to look at it as the agenda and the behavior, and you start to perceive under the surface and you take it to the Lord in prayer, you'll be able to gain clarity and practice self-control. Practice self-control. So it's like, I see what you're trying to do. I really do. I really see what you're trying to do, right? I seen a little narcissistic smirk when you thought I was getting mad, right? I seen what you're trying to do, right? But at the end of the day, I'm not about to react that way. I'm not going to react that way. Because you have to consider that somebody being obsessive over you, right, or repetitively targeting you over and over and over. Like if you were to think about gang stalking, it is repetitive assaults. It is targeting repetitively, right? If you ever see somebody who's talking about they're being stalked and targeted, those people, whenever they try to cry out, right, whenever they're reacting erratically, and they get on the internet and they're crying out and saying that these people are doing all of this stuff to me, because the intention is that they want you to be committed, cuckoo, or they want you to be arrested. They want you to commit some type of crime and be arrested and be in prison at the end of the day. When you think about people targeting a person to make them act crazy, to make them go crazy, to make them get mad and do something illegal, right? When you think of somebody attacking somebody to that degree, it just don't seem normal. So when you see those people who get on the internet and they outcry and they crying out on the internet talking about they're watching me, they're lying on me, right? Most people are looking at them like, okay, sure, right? But at the end of the day, that's because it's so far-fetched, until it ain't, to believe that people will go to this degree to try to destroy somebody's reputation, to try to tear down somebody's business, to try to sabotage somebody's career, to try to ruin somebody's mental health, and so forth and so forth. And so you see a lot of these people out crying on the internet when truthfully you need to be crying out to the Lord. You need to lament, period, point blank. That is biblical crying out. Because crying out to the internet, crying out to the world, when the world sometimes receives this evil, you got to learn to cry out to the Lord. But I say all of that to say that when you look at these type of assaults, right, when you look at the abuse and people who intend to abuse you, right, to break you down, to cause you to either go crazy, right, or to be imprisoned, right, what actually aligns with that behavior? To literally assault you, demonic assaults, to try to break you down so that you can be in a state of bondage, imprisonment, even if it's in your own mind. Even if you don't trust yourself to do anything, right? It's to make you imprisoned. And at the end of the day, it is demonic, period. The third solution is to know that whether you are a victim or a flying monkey, the narcissist who's coming against you thinks that you're a fool, period. Okay. And don't get me wrong. It is a projection. A narcissist thinking that their target is a fool, or thinking that the people that they tricked into doing their evil bidding is a fool, is a projection. The narcissist in themselves is foolish. And so you have to understand that when a narcissist wants to target a person because you have something that they want, right? At the end of the day, when they try to get a flying monkey to come in and do their evil bidding, they're looking at you as, I want something from that person. You're going to help me to get it, right? They know that this person has something that I want. They have a resource I want to plunder. And at the end of the day, I want to attain it. And so I'm going to use you, flying monkey. I'm going to use you. And I'm going to make you help me attain what I want. Even if it's just as simple as help me attack this person, their reputation, so that they can be socially outcast, so that I can assume their personality, period. It's a lot easier for me to assume their personality if they're not around. Because if they're around, then people are going to look at this person and they're going to see what I'm imitating authentically. And so maybe I won't be able to, act like them as much if they were still on social media, if they were still coming out to events, right? So a lot of times it could be just as simple as they want you to get this person socially outcast. Even if it's, I already took all of their personality traits. Now I just need help exiling them from the community, outcasting them socially out so that I can shine bright in their personality when they're not around. It's easier. It's easier to act like them when they're not around. If nobody has the original thing to compare me to, they'll believe that this is just who I am, right? So at the end of the day, they're using you to attain what they want. And at the end of the day, they're saying, well, I know this person hasn't done anything to me, but in order for me to be more comfortable, right, in my schemes, I need this person to get gone. And so at the end of the day, they recruit you. And now they're seeing you slander this person, come against this person, and they know You're attacking this person, and this person didn't do anything to you. You don't even really know this person. I brought you in here to make you attack this person, and you don't even know them. And look at you. You going harder than me. And at the end of the day, you have these two unoffended people, the narcissist and the fly monkey, but they decided that they want to team up to try to destroy the target. And so you have to understand that a narcissist, they know 9 times out of 10 when they're targeting a person, they know that that person didn't do anything to them. So a narcissist is attacking this person because they want something from them. And so they're like, oh, we're going to attack this person. And so when they recruited you, right, and you start to attack this person, you start coming against this person, the narcissist knows that that person didn't do anything to you either. And they're like, because basically you going hard. You going hard against this person. You don't even know this person. I'm lying and you don't even know this person. Like, and at the end of the day, you're a fool to them. You're a fool to them. And so at the end of the day, you have two people who are unoffended by the person that they're targeting. But at the end of the day, they both come into agreement, honey, with this agenda to destroy. Period. And so you have to really think, like, whenever you're looking under the veil at this behavior, when you're looking deeper than what you see, if you are a flying monkey of a narcissist where you attack people and you plunder people that you didn't even know, and you probably don't even remember, because I don't think that people who do this type of evil actually remember the evil that they do, period. Or that they, anyway. How much respect did the person who brought you into that mess have for you? What did they think of you to bring this mess to you? What could they possibly think of you? And so I say all of that to say that in most cases, if you were to be caught doing all of this evil, if the person y'all targeting didn't even go after the narcissist and decided they wanted to go after you legally. And I think it's just so funny because when a narcissist is using a flying monkey, they will gladly throw that person under the bus. And so that's why whenever you're perceiving this behavior, whether you are the victim, I don't like the word victim, the target, or you are the flying monkey, you have to look under the surface with a narcissist and you have to perceive past the veil that they're trying to show you, the mask, because you have to really think, if you're a flying monkey, how much does this person actually respect you? If they're willing to send you out there to be a fool, if they're willing to send you out there to attack a person that didn't actually do anything, what happens if that person decides to go after you and not the narcissist and they want to take you to court, or they come and they attack you, they get somebody to attack you, right? The narcissist is going to, one, play the victim, but they're also going to say they already planned to throw you under the bus. They're going to say, well, I didn't ask you to do all that. So if it blows up in your face, I didn't ask you to do all that. And at the end of the day, you have to take into consideration that when a narcissist is trying to pull you into their schemes, that they don't think too highly of you anyway. And so in closing, if you made it this far, if you made it to the end of this video, you are a real one. I pray that you were able to receive the awareness and that it's able to be utilized as a tool to truly help you overcome narcissism with mental and emotional awareness. Because at the end of the day, I know this conversation can be triggering, but I really desire you to fully heal and get past awareness. In the transformation series, one of the things that I was given by the Holy Spirit is how to develop a heart of repentance, right? Beyond just the simple repentance. And not that repentance is complicated, but I'm a person who suffered at the hand of many narcissistic people. And so the trauma had to be addressed very deep, okay, very deeply. And so I say all of that to say that the first phase of the heart of repentance is awareness. And what I've recognized when I see my fellow peers of this generation talking about the abuse that they endured at the hands of narcissists, most of them seem to be trapped in the awareness phase, right? So they're talking about these people did this, they said this, they thought this, they did this, and they're stuck in the awareness. But I want people to really move forward. Instead of being stuck in awareness, I want them to move forward in the heart of repentance so that they can get beyond what you know. If you know this person is manipulative, sure, that's not going to stop you from reacting emotionally. I'm going to tell you, it's not. You need to have more understanding. You need to move on to acceptance, right? You need to move past awareness so that you won't be played with and tricked by the enemy. And so I know that it can be triggering. I pray that it was what you needed. But more than anything, I would love to hear back from anybody who is confident enough to share a piece of their experience. If you've dealt with triangulation and being targeted, if you want to start a discourse in the comments, I would love to see it. Because we all have personal experiences, but if there's one thing that connects all of us, it's pain, right? It's that we've been through things, and it might be the only thing that we don't want to connect on, but at the end of the day, it's one thing that we all have in common. So, until next time, definitely much love to everybody.